Matthew, and I am a support advocate here at ServiceTitan. Before we go ahead and begin, can everyone please raise their hands if they can both hear my voice as well as see my screen up here? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So here is the series of webinars we offer within ServiceTitan. So today, again, we're going to be covering lead flipping and estimate conversion. Mondays are our getting started webinars, where we cover the end-to-end overview of how to use ServiceTitan and the general navigation of it. Tuesdays are payroll. Today, of course, is lead flipping. Tomorrow is going to be managing customers' memberships and recurring services, and we'll be going over some of the reporting as well to see how we can track memberships and recurring services. And lastly, on Friday, we will be going over the mobile webinars. So if you guys haven't had a chance to register to those just yet, please go ahead and do so. So here are some of the objectives for today's webinar. We're going to be going through an example of how to generate a lead, how to go ahead and sell the lead and convert it, as well as how make sure that the installation work and the sales aspect, as well as the technician who generated the lead from the original job, are all kind of grouped together under a project umbrella. So we'll be going over that process as well. And lastly, we'll be covering some of the reports we're going to want to take a look at to track this information and to track this workflow. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to get into our ServiceTitan here. And so in a normal workflow of converting a lead, essentially what will happen is we will have a technician out on the field. We'll currently be on the site for the customer. And let's just take a look at our dispatch board and see what we have up on the board so far. So we have a job up for Matt, and it looks like he's currently working on that job for Jordan. So in this workflow, Matt will call into the office and speak to one of the CSRs and say that they've identified some additional opportunities, and they think it would be beneficial for a sales technician to come out to the site and actually leave an estimate for the customer, or a series of estimates for that matter. So what the CSR will do in that case is go into the dispatch board, as we have up here, click into the job that Matt is currently working on, which will take us directly to the job page. And in the blue action button drop-down menu, click into this, and we're going to go ahead and select lead. Once we select lead, ServiceTitan will ask us, do you want to create another job that is a lead generated from the current job? Go ahead and leave Matt's name there, since he is the one who generated the lead, and we can go ahead and simply create. Now, once we do so, this will take us to a new job page. And you'll notice two things here that are different from the first page we looked at, first job we looked at. So the first is that we now have a project. So anytime we create a lead, we will have the lead that was generated from the original job under the umbrella of that original job. So if we click into the project page here, we will be able to monitor our workflow as to the entirety of this multi-day job or project. So as you can see, we have a job up here. So this is the original job where Matt was assigned as the technician. And he's still currently working there, so we have a working status, and we do not yet have a completed on date. The lead we generated here, we do not necessarily have a technician assigned, and it's still in a scheduled status. So this kind of tells us where we are with the job. So first thing we need to do is go back into the original job that Matt was on, and we can just go ahead and complete out this job. We can go ahead and assign an invoice number here. Assign an invoice date. And save this information. Okay. I'll go back into the job page, and we just want to double check our work. So we'll go into the project from the original job, and now we do see that the original job does have a completed on date, and we have a status as completed. So on to the next job. So aside from the project page, we will also see in the summary, so the job summary, we will see a little green L tag. If we hover our cursor over it, we'll see that it says this job was a lead generated from another job. And if we click into the tag, it'll take us to the original job that Matt was the technician on. So what we're going to want to do next is assign one of our sales technicians. So let's say Adam in this case. And then we're going to go ahead and dispatch Adam. And we're going to go ahead and arrive Adam. And finally, we're going to go ahead and complete out the job. Now, in a normal workflow, essentially what's going to happen is the technician is going to be completing the job on their end, on their tablets, essentially, and they're going to be leaving the estimates on the tablets themselves. But for today's demo, we're just going to be doing everything manually through the Office side. We'll go ahead and assign an invoice date as today. Go ahead and save this information. And we can go ahead and add an estimate. Now let's just add a couple of tasks here. And let's go ahead and add some materials as well. Okay, so now we have all of our tasks and our materials added to the estimate for the customer. Now, if we go back into the job page, we will see that we have an open estimate left for that customer. Now, in today's workflow, I'm going to be splitting it up in 3 different sections. So first we had Matt, who was on the original job, who was going to be listed as the technician who generated the lead. And then we have Adam, who is our sales technician, who went out and left an estimate. And the next step is to actually have the installation work done. Now, prior to doing that, I do want to highlight that I know many companies have technicians that double both as a sales technician as well as an installation technician. Now, in instances like that, you can certainly have that same technician generate the estimate and also do the installation work. And in that case, what will happen when we're looking on the reporting side, and we'll see that in a moment, is that the technician will be listed as both the person who sold the estimate as well as performed the work. But for the purposes of today's webinar, I want to break everything up so we can see how everything transpires when we're breaking up 3 different technicians for all the different roles we have. So let's go back into the project page and just make sure everything looks as it should. So again, we had Matt, who was assigned to the original job, who generated the lead. Then we sent out Adam, who was our sales technician, who went out and left an estimate. So for this example, I just went ahead and left one estimate. However, I believe the industry standard is around 4 to 6 estimates every time a sales technician goes out. So you may see a couple more estimates populate there. So now that this job is complete, it's time to go ahead and move forward with the installation work. So after some time passes by and we want to follow up on this information, we'll go into the follow-ups tab. And as we can see, we have one estimate up on the board here. So one of our open estimates for customer Jordan, and the technician was Adam. The amount is $950. We see the status as not attempted and 0 follow-ups. So what we'll do is click into this field here, and this will take us to the opportunity follow-ups page. Now, in theory, if there were multiple estimates, we would see all of them populate on the opportunity follow-ups page, and we can simply go ahead and either dismiss those opportunities or sell and convert the opportunity. So it depends on what the customer wants, of course. Now, in order to do that, we can certainly go ahead and call the customer, do an outbound call, and we can go ahead and also log a follow-up as well. So we can add any additional notes we'd like. We can also schedule the next follow-up date, and we also have the option of marking the opportunity as successfully reaching the customer or not. So prior to doing that, I just want to highlight that we can actually go into the estimate itself by clicking into the edit pencil here next to the sold and convert option. Once we click into this, again, it'll take us to the estimate page. We will be able to view all of the tasks and materials, and if there were any equipment, we would also be able to view that. Now we can certainly go ahead and edit this information by clicking into the edit pencil. We can edit the description, the quantity, and the unit price. We can also go ahead and cancel any tasks that shouldn't be there. And we can also go ahead and add tasks, equipment, and materials. So we can really do whatever we want with this estimate at this point because it has not yet been converted into a job just yet. So let's go back into the opportunity page. And again, we will have the option to dismiss the opportunity. However, in this case, we want to, of course, go ahead and sell and convert this particular estimate. So once we click the sell and convert option, it's going to ask us who sold the estimate. So since Adam is our sales technician, we'll just go ahead and leave his name here because his name is already tied to the job. I also did want to highlight that in the past, I have seen companies wanting to give their employees the credit for selling estimates. Now, in that case, what you would do is simply create a technician profile for that employee. And the reason we want to do this is because when we get this question where it says who sold the estimate, the drop-down option only gives us the ability to select technicians and not employees. So again, what we'll need to do is double the employee as a technician. The only difference is when we are creating the technician account for that particular employee, and I want to make sure I cover this. I'll just go into the settings here and go into technicians. And once we add a technician here, you're going to want to fill out all this information, right, to the best of your ability, of course. Assign them the business unit, zones, teams if you need to. The only thing we want to make sure that we're not selecting is the enable technician access. If you do indeed click the enable technician access, you will be charged for that technician. So for tracking purposes, we just want to have the employee doubled as a technician just so we can select them in the sold by field and not necessarily be charged for that employee as a technician because, of course, they are not out on the field necessarily. So moving on, let's go ahead and sell and convert this particular estimate. And we can go ahead and leave Adam's name here since he was the sales technician. Go ahead and sell and convert. And now it's going to take us back to the estimate page. The only difference here from what we saw earlier when we clicked into the edit pencil off the opportunity follow-ups page is that now we'll have the boxes to check off for these tasks as well as the materials. This is to ensure that everything that we've discussed with the customer is going to transfer over to the invoice for the installation work to be completed. So in this case, we speak to the customer and they want to move forward with all the work that was listed on the estimate. So what we'll do is just go ahead and check all here. We can go ahead and check all the materials as well. And finally, we'll go ahead and book the job. This will, of course, take us back to the calls page where we will specify the the customer's profile page as well as the location that we're actually going to be performing the work. So in this case, Jordan only has one location. So let's go ahead and also assign a technician right off the bat to do the installation work. So let's go ahead and say Bob, and then we can go ahead and book the job for this location. And now again, we will also see this job, which is the installation work, be bound to the same project that the first two jobs were. So the original job as well as the job that was generated from the original job. And finally, the estimate portion that was generated and sold and converted, which is this job we see here ending in 1492. So let's click into the project page. And again, we can view our workflow throughout the entire process. So we see that Matt, again, was the original technician, Adam was the sales technician, and Bob, of course, is going to be the installation technician. Let's go back into the job for Bob here. And the second thing I want to highlight, of course, is the tag we have here that says E. If you hover your cursor over this, it will tell you that this job was generated from an estimate that was sold. Now, the only difference between clicking into this and clicking into the green L tag that we had previously is that this will take you to the opportunity follow-up page and not necessarily the previous job. So just be conscious of that. So let's go ahead and move forward with this job. We can go ahead and dispatch Bob. We can go ahead and arrive Bob. And after spending some time on the site, Bob goes ahead and completes all the work that was to be done. And we go ahead and complete. Again, let's go ahead and assign an invoice number here. Now, I do want to highlight that in a regular workflow, of course, you're not going to necessarily need to assign the invoice number here. This will automatically be generated once the technician is completing the job on their end. So again, we're doing everything manually, therefore we're going to need to do some additional legwork here. So let's go ahead and add the invoice date. And save. And so now we have all the tasks and the materials that transferred over to this job here. And finally, what we're going to want to do is go into the reporting page, but prior to that, let's again check the project page and make sure everything is intact with one another. So we see that all three stages of the job have indeed been completed, and this is important to know because if we want to actually view this information, the sales tracking reports are both detail and the general one are both based on completed on dates. So we want to make sure that all of these jobs have completed status here as well as a completed on date. So let's go into our reporting side now and take a look at the sales tracking report and the sales tracking detail report. Okay, and let's go ahead and select today's date. So as you can see, we have a column here for all the technicians, total number of jobs for that day, the tech-generated leads, number sold, and then we have the TGL, which is, again, the tech-generated leads, with the acronym, of course, but the dollar amount here. And then we're also going to see the sold and left and the performed only. And then the last column we have is sold and performed. So as you can see in this workflow, Matt was the technician who generated the lead for $950. Adam was the one that sold and left. And finally, we had Bob, who did the install work and performed only. Now, again, I do know that many companies use technicians as both the sales technician and the install technician. So in that case, essentially what would happen when we're tracking this information is that if we had, for example, Adam, both as the sales technician and installation technician, both of these columns, the sold and left and performed only, would be empty, and instead Adam's figure would populate in the sold and performed section here under the last column. Okay, so let's go ahead and backtrack here and take a look at the sales tracking report by detail. So this is essentially the same information. I'll leave a wider date range so you guys can see some more data here. So again, this is essentially the same information. We can filter by business unit, and we have the date range filter as well. This will break down the actual jobs or estimates or invoices that pertain to that technician, whether they were the tech who generated the lead, or the technician who just sold and left, or performed only, or both sold the estimate as well as did the installation work. And we can actually click into any one of these fields here, and it'll take us to that job directly. So that's the only difference we have between the sales tracking report and the sales tracking by detail, that will actually have a breakdown of the jobs, invoices, and estimates that we can actually follow up on. As you can see, it'll break down for each technician, and it'll give us all of the amounts that transpired from those estimates there. And those two reports are really the only reports we're going to use to track our sales with this type of a workflow. At this time, does anybody have any questions for me? Is there anyone would like me to revisit? If so, you guys can just go ahead and write in a question. I'll be more than happy to work through any inquiries you guys have. So again, just to recap, in today's webinar, what we covered was a general workflow of how to essentially group or bundle together all of the jobs within this project, and how to tie the tech-generated lead and the original job essentially along with the job that we sold the estimate on and finally perform the work on. And finally, how to track all this information through the reporting side. Additionally, one other thing we covered today was how to give credit to your employees if they're the ones that are actually going into the follow-ups page and calling the customer and actually putting in the work and the effort to sell the estimate themselves. Again, this is a schedule of all of the webinars we offer in our series. So again, today we covered lead flipping and estimate conversion. Mondays, again, are going to be the getting started with ServiceTitan webinar. Tuesdays will be payroll. Thursdays, which is tomorrow, will be memberships and recurring services. And Fridays will be mobile. Again, if you guys haven't had a chance to register to the following webinars for this week, please go ahead and do so. If you guys need any help with the registration, please contact training@servicetitan.com, and we'll be more than happy to direct you to the right links. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write in. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. If you guys don't have any questions right now and you feel pretty comfortable going through this workflow and possibly have any questions later on down the road, you can always go ahead and submit a ticket either to support if you're running into any troubleshooting errors, or you can always contact the training department or your implementation specialist or your customer success manager. So it really depends on what stage you are in the service type and process. So thank you for all of you who did join. If you guys don't have any questions, again, you guys are free to leave. Thank you so much.